Hey, welcome back. Cheesy here with Of the Devil. I guess we're starting to look at dead bodies, which is pretty cool of us. We haven't seen a real dead body in a while. Actually, we haven't ever seen a real dead body, so, that's fair. All right, I'll just step out for a moment to give you some privacy. Yes, please. Thank you. The last time we talked was on a Sunday. You were complaining. I remember that. It's the principle of the matter. Right. You had ordered this cheap piece of shit sculpture or something by mistake, and it came damaged and you wanted to send it back for a refund. I gently reminded you how, with your salary, it was literally not worth your time. And I kindly offered to throw it out for you, since you're having so much trouble letting go. You're only offering because you want to see how loud it sounds shattering at the bottom of my trash can. I denied it, even though you were right, and it was obvious. I should have let you have that one. I thought that he would look different. But he looks exactly the same as I remember. His skin is pale, and he's very still. But his face is the same, his hair, his hands. You're expecting something more drastic. The last time I saw him, he was alive. He smiled and told me he would see me soon. Now he is dead. Something is gone. And I can't find the difference. I'm trying to look harder. But I think I might just not be capable of it. And I wonder why. Why I was created to not be capable. Could be an issue of skill. Or maybe it's not something that can be seen no matter how hard you look. But it's there, I guarantee it. I've seen the transition enough times to be sure that life, between life and death, the distinction has significance. To the dead, at the very least. You're going to smoke? Here? Now? I'll pay the fine. That's not the issue. Were you expecting me to fall to pieces? Real boys grieve in all kinds of ways, Pinocchio. And some don't grieve at all, it seems. I'm a cold woman. Sorry to disappoint. The hell? Why the hell won't this thing light? How deny? You have your cigarette backwards. Oof. Wrecked. Pretending to be cold. Or pretending to be unaffected, I guess. Looks weak to do that, I suppose. All right, that's back into cold storage for him, so need anything else? Can you send me the chemical makeup of that compound you isolated? Sure, for what it's worth, let me just... It's got carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, hydrogen with hexagonal structures. So it's organic, but there's a number of metallic elements too. And if you had to speculate on its intended use, based on what we know of its structure, well, it certainly acted like a depressant, binding to receptors' pathways and affecting the balance of neurotransmitter reuptake. Depressants are pretty rare in the designer drug scene. True, people are always looking for a higher high or a crazier trip, but a more powerful depressant will just make you fall asleep. Not much needed to hit up the gray market for that kind of experience. No, there's not. I see. Thanks again. You've been extremely helpful during a difficult time. Hey, anything you need, give me a ring. That's very generous. Rockford's orders got me on call, so I'm already getting overtime for the whole weekend. Glad to hear it. Goodbye, Yumi. And goodbye to you, Greenie. My name is Serra. Nice to meet you, Sarah. Greenie. Honestly, pretty cool name, Sarah. You should change it. Greenie's a cool one. Up on ramps and down off ramps, above skywalks and under tram lines. The buildings get progressively more polished as we head into the most economically developed part of the city. Corporate territory, national headquarters for the likes of Howe Industries, Lock Coon, Tethys, and Each of them sheltering their own micro-city of employees, accommodations beneath their skyscrapers' shadows. Whalefall. The entirety of the ocean floor coming together to feast and grow and live. Live off the fetid, rotting fat of the leviathans that swallow generations of people by the mouthful. Weight is commonly listed, and my weight is... Do I really have to disclose that? Noble lays claim to one of the largest shadows in the city, a towering nerve center for the whole nation's android industry. It's meant to be intimidating, I'm sure, but today I'm glad that Noble keeps such a sizable physical presence here. I need answers about David and his work on Serra. Answers I'll never get browsing the company website or speaking to a representative. Synopsis. Relationships. There are typically trivia sections as well. Should I start there? Noble will have their guard up, of course, but even that will tell me something. Where they let me walk, who they let me talk to. History. Their efforts at performative transparency and clumsy obfuscation will... How did you know my father? What? I'm sorry, did I interrupt your brooding? No. What did you ask? My father. I know you were his friend. But what was your relationship like? Can't you just scroll through our socials? Father avoided social media. And your online presence is not significant. You saying I don't have enough followers? Essentially. We went to the same college. You studied programming? No, I studied all kinds of different things as an undergrad, but not technology. Is that a good way to prepare for law school? I wasn't preparing for law school, or anything else, really. David, though, he had talent, and he knew what he wanted to do. And he knew he wanted to do something with it. He studied programming, robotics, discrete math, cybernetics. What classes did you share then? Business ethics. I was the second best student in the class, and he was the first? He was the one who asked the most questions. Not sure about his actual ranking. He found the course challenging, and I clearly didn't, despite being younger. Guess he felt burned. He'd come up to me after class to argue, and sometimes to ask for help. Father always talked about socializing like it was a chore. It is a chore. It was kind of you to give him a chance. What, like I was some kind of social butterfly? The belle of the ball? The hell are you talking about, Morgan? You weren't? One Sunday night, he knocked on my door all panicked, and he was in bad shape from his tech course. It was a midterm or something the next day. I couldn't make heads or tails of the material, but I did my best to at least quiz him. He wasn't satisfied, though, wanted to cram the rest of the night. Father had to cram for an undergraduate midterm? Did I say something scandalous? He's been called the founder of modern programming. Yeah, well, even founder types can have poor time management when they're 21. He was already fried by that point. Wasn't hard to tell what he was really asking for. So I went and stole a study aid for him. You stole a controlled substance? Just to help him with studying? No, that'd be insane. No, I just pocketed some breath mints from the common room. Told him to pinch his nose and swallow fast because the taste is so strong. You gave him a placebo. He already knew the content as good as he ever would. What he needed was to sleep. He could barely keep his eyes open by the time I got back from my daring heist. Didn't take much convincing for him to rest his eyes just until it kicked in. And the test? B+, I think. I'm surprised that father stayed close with you after that. You stole and lied to him. I stole and lied for him, and David understood that. He was good at understanding things without me having to spell them out. But I guess that's not the kind of thing that gets passed down through programming. Anyway, we kept in touch after that. First year of grad school, he published this paper, The Turing Solution, a framework for programming adaptive linguistic heuristics. One of his advisors came up with that title. David thought it was way too cocky, but it still hasn't failed any known Turing tests in the years since. Don't act like you're the one who deserved credit for it. He called me one weekend asking for advice on how to handle all the attention. job offers, interviews, apprenticeships, invitations to immigrate. What did you tell him? I don't remember telling him anything, actually. A lot of our conversations went like that. He would talk to me about whatever personal or professional problem he was stuck in his head that day, and I would nod while he wore himself out. At the end of the conversation, he'd thank me, even though I hadn't offered a single word of advice. Sometimes you just need someone to vent to, because you know the answers already. He took Noble's offer and they took over his education, paid for him to work on his master's during the day and attend corporate training at night. And whatever else Noble may be, they were smart enough to start listening to him early. You're referring to his one-point doctrine. Quality over quantity. Simple and elegant, just like his code. Simple and elegant, but anathema to a global corporation with supply chains designed for maximum capacity and just-in-time manufacturing. But obviously they got over their distaste fast enough. In the span of a few years, Noble's gone from making manual labor ads for meager profit to being the world leader in intelligence as a service. Even as he was making money hand over fist, he still kept in contact with a nobody like me. I moved to the city for my apprenticeship. He helped me put a down payment on my apartment, then made up excuses as to why he couldn't help me move boxes. So, is that enough detail for you? Thoroughly convinced that he and I were, in fact, friends? I am. But Adonai, the favor that you owe him, what was it for? That's private, understand? I have zero interest in talking about it with you. Okay. Say you understand. I understand, Adonai. We will be arriving shortly. Shall I send word ahead? Just tell them that David's lawyer is here. Yeah, I'm here. I'm the David's lawyer. I'm about to play cards with my dead friend's death. Noble Electronics Northeastern HQ. Sublobby A8. Love that place. It's pretty nice. I've been here before. Sat right here in this lobby waiting for David to come and treat me to lunch. At least I think it was this lobby. Could be some other floor, could be an entirely different building. All these corporate towers of Babel feel like interchangeable fractals to me, folding in on themselves in patterns of narcissistic paranoia. So monumental in the scale of their hubris, they needed to use non-Euclidean geometry when drawing up blueprints. The greatest minds of each generation coming together, just to find the most expensive way to shove their heads up their asses. Honestly, that's businesses for you. Adonai, is something bothering you? Just doing the math on how long we'll be kept waiting here. Apparently someone will be here shortly. So maybe if I pass the time by glaring around the place, it'll improve my mood. That's how I feel when I'm at a place waiting. To think this is only one room. This complex is so massive that it doesn't even feel man-made. It's like it was carved out of the rock by waves, like it's always been here. That's the con. If this place was actually natural, there'd be birds everywhere. I hadn't considered that. Why aren't the birds in here? Probably because of what they would do to the ones that get in. I'm kidding. Though I don't have a better explanation. You know, fair enough. They changed the logo again. Noble Electronics. How's it feel stepping in here? Is it some kind of religious experience for you? It's just the corporation where my father worked. Careful now, or they'll burn you for heresy against the company. You said it again, the company, as if it's a proper noun. You're mimicking the employees, aren't you? So it can't obey simple orders, but it can pick up on that. What do you mean? Of course it can pick up on that. It's detail-oriented. I'm calling Serra it. She's detail-oriented. Is it just part of the corporate culture? Noble's one of the biggest corporations there is. One of the biggest there's ever been. No, we mere humans can't hope to escape the gravity of anything that size, no matter where you live or how far off the grid you think you are. So imagine what it's like working for them. You live in company dorms, work in company quarters. Wherever you go, that logo's above your head. You sleep, eat, and breathe on Noble's timetable at its discretion. When you spend your whole life inside of it, Noble must feel big enough to be the only company there is. Fair. Is that it? Is that the only thing I could look at? Watch. So much energy, so many people. Also, intent. You kidding? It's Saturday. The place is half empty. But doesn't everyone work on Saturdays? So all the parents do, so they don't need to find childcare on Sunday. Everyone else flips a coin, I guess. All these people for 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. What could they all possibly be doing? Making work for themselves. You can be very cynical, can't you? Yeah, I'm terrible. But that guy over there has just been jiggling his cursor for the last 20 seconds. Whoever comes to greet us better have a pulse and some goddamn authority. My mood's starting to sour, and if they just send me the first link in their infinite chain of corporate bureaucracy, I'll make them wish. Morgan? That's me. Hey there, Android Manufacturing Quality Control Eastern Division. Evan Dawes. Dawes? Evan Dawes? He says like it's an afterthought. What's a name compared to your place in a hierarchy? You seem familiar. Have you? I'm David's lawyer. Oh, then we must have. Apologies. Let me first just say how sorry I am about his passing. You and everyone else at the company must be going through a lot right now. As if it's a proper noun. Thank you for taking the time to meet with me. You're welcome, but it's no big deal. Everyone's on the razor today, but what else is new? And compared to PR or legal right now, our workloads in QA are... Never mind. How can I assist you? Shortly before his passing, Dr. Assure began the process of registering this android. Yes, that is correct. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to finish the job. Look at that. It's definitely custom. Gee, you think? Good thing I sought out an expert. Warm. It goes without saying. Reminds me of the A16 Premiere, if anything. The barcode is clearly printed. No visible defects. But you're right. It doesn't correspond to anything we got on file. Well, they sent you the right man for the job. Now we just need to go to the right place. Not far, I hope. It's in the building. In the building. That could mean anything from down the hall to half a day's hike. The production line on B9 should have everything we need. You do manufacturing inside your corporate headquarters? B9's a fully functional production floor, but it was only built for demonstrative purposes. New clients make deals upstairs about how many and what shape or size, and they come down to the basement to see how the sausage is made. They have enough money to build a fake factory just for guests. Smart. So, sorry about that. So, as long as you're giving tours, only giving tours and not giving away company secrets. No need to worry about that. We take intellectual security very seriously around here. No kidding. There are 11 cameras on us at the moment that I can see. And who knows how many pairs of modded eyes are aimed at our way. Clearly, nothing happens here without the almighty company knowing about it. So if they try to claim ignorance about anything, it's gonna piss me off. Lead the way. All right, we're getting somewhere. Really wonder what Serra's use is for. Basement, floor 9. Is it to, like, create morality? I don't know. Within the ADDs? It really is fully furnished down here. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but it's pretty rare to get to see all this in person, you know? Would you mind terribly if I looked around for a moment? No problem. I've got some prelim paperwork I need to handle anyway, so have at it. Better take full advantage. I'll need more than a cursory knowledge if I want to figure out where Serra came from and why David wanted me to take custody. I'm gonna look around. You stay put in the meantime. Adonai? Wouldn't want to lose you amongst the rest of the merchandise. Yeah. Watch. What's being built out there? Our top-of-the-line brand new bestsellers, the Animate 16, warm. Looks kind of cold out there. We keep the factory floor refrigerated. Slows the organics already, tuned metabolic activity to a minimum. That explains why the room doesn't smell like rotting flesh. The flesh out there is only somewhat rotting. Slowly. I just meant that I'm surprised to see metal. Oh, well, all A16s have alloy endoskeletons. The organics are layered on later in the process. Sounds like what Serra told me about herself. Maybe she really was the A16's prototype. But it's hard to imagine bridging the gap between her and these scattered doll parts. I get that you can grow just about anything from lax Gemini, but how do you get the synthetic and the organic to work together? Yeah, that was our first concern when R&D began work on the Warma concept. The 1.0s were real skin with synthetic muscle, and it was a horror show. Metal pulling on skin was just right. For 2.0, they worked backwards. Organic muscles, organic skin. But digital signals on organic hardware was a dead end. Didn't the muscles flex when you passed an electric current through them? They'd flex and unflex, sure, but that's not nearly precise enough for facial expressions. Look like puppets strung up on live wires. We used to test footage to haze interns, actually. You must have figured something out. The A16 wouldn't look out of place on the runway. Thank you. We try. We ended up reaching out to mod companies. Well, we actually just bought out a half dozen of them, but... Right. They figured out how to get human nervous systems moving mechanical limbs decades ago. So we just need to get a mechanical nervous system to move living limbs. Very clumsy attempt to avoid using the word human. High precision mods are slotted straight into the nervous system. They receive their input from neurotransmitters, not bioelectricity. I do enjoy the soundtrack of this game. So you had to do the opposite. Exactly. We created a synthetic neurotransmitter that our androids could use to communicate with organic flesh. Where did that breakthrough come from, Dr. Asher? Partly, he led the team to build the motor neurons in this analogy. They carry commands from the central nervous OS to individual muscles across the chassis. But the the synthetic analog serotonin, that was actually an old brainchild from the VP of Android Futures, Helen Jung. Jung. Hasn't David mentioned a Dr. Jung before? Sounds impressive. She's one hell of a biochemist. Or she was, I guess. Not much time for individual lab work when you get to her kind of pay grade. So Jung collaborated with David on the technology that enabled warm androids. As I thought, whatever went into Serra that makes the android so distinct, he couldn't have taken sole credit for it. Jung, did he partner with her on this? This seems to share some components with that coffin Serra was napping in. If DAWs does quality assurance, is it some kind of Android calibration service? Wait, did I say service? Calibration device. I don't know why I said service. It's probably what he'll use to register Serra. Looks a little... Is Serra tall enough for it to recognize her? I don't know. An inhaler left out on the desk. Probably a half dozen empty ones in the one of the drawers. DAWs, the inhalers, DAWs, they're distributed by the company, correct? Oh, yeah, HR handles it. They personalize your dosage and prescription and update it based on your performance and job fulfillment reviews. Other corporations do the same way? Yeah, pretty much. Everyone's trying to keep pace with each other, so can't have your employees losing focus on the job. Could cost you. Who knows how much in lost efficiency. Sorry if this is insensitive, but given what happened to David, are overdoses common in the company? Yeah. Yeah, he says. Overdoses, that is not hospitalizations or deaths. It's all pretty organized these days. These days? Man, back when I started in consulting, pretty much everyone had an embarrassing story from their first 2 years when they popped a few too many greens and missed the on-ramp. Popped greens? Yeah, used to be pills. Green to get you going, yellow to keep you there, swallow a red after brushing your teeth and getting into your bunk fast. But yeah, the inhalers are a huge improvement, like going from torches to a light bulb. They sync strategies to your personal biomes and adjust dosages in real time. Overdoses are way down. That's great to hear. The trainees under me don't realize how good they've got it. Kids probably won't even have to learn how to purge. Yeah, I know, right? What is purging? The act of emptying one's stomach. Oh. Well, that's terrible. I thought it was some other fancy term, but no, it was not. There's something out there that caught my eye when we came in. A very familiar shade of crimson. If I squint through the glass, out on the floor there are temperature-controlled fluid tanks. Through glass and plastic flows an eye-catching scarlet that transitions into. So you can add the blood towards the end. You mean the oxidant? Yeah, relatively late in the process. Huh, something out of place. Androids have blood, even if it's not officially labeled as such. But it isn't red, it's pink. Sometimes milky, sometimes neon, occasionally garish, but pink. How very dang it, Rampa. I just didn't think the oxidant would be red. Oh, right, sorry. No, wait. I just didn't think the oxidant, yeah, okay. The color's natural comes from the biomanufacturing process. That chromofuge out there removes the byproducts and waste and the excess pigment, changing it from blood red to psychopop pink. Psychopop! Without that chromofuge, and our android's flesh would come out looking all the wrong colors. That may be true. It probably isn't, but it may be. But I have a simpler explanation. Blood is primal, the sight of it carries weight. They change the color of their product's blood so that when an android gets a bottle broken against his face, no one bats an eye. Fair. Oh. Oh, this thing. What we got on this data pad? It's on the floor. Some kind of write-up? All right, let's see. Sullivan's Peak. Much of our world today, and in fact, much of our world's economy is heavily influenced by the uncanny valley. The thought experiment provides a simple and easily applied explanation for the gaps we see in the otherwise wide spectrum of automated dependence that assist us in nearly every industry on the planet. There's a very simple, primal truth to it. We like things that resemble the living, like cartoons and puppets and toys, and we like things that are damn near indistinguishable from the living, like whatever name Noble's latest products are being sold under. But there are deep trenches between those two ends where products are universally appalling to human sensibility. The uncanny valley will no doubt remain a useful tool for teaching, marketing, and design for generations to come. But already we are seeing ways in which it can fail. It fails. I don't know why I said it can fail. It is becoming increasingly clear to us that the space between nearly indistinguishable and truly indistinguishable is much... Oh, I don't know if you heard the ambulance, but it's there. And it may not be the only part of the map that we must fear. Oh, the truly indistinguishable. Okay, let me re-say that. It is becoming increasingly clear to us that the space between nearly indistinguishable and truly indistinguishable is much wider than we ever suspected, and it may not be the only part of the map that we must fear. I propose we bridge these gaps in knowledge by looking to the speculative fiction of Robert J. Sullivan, who is on his most well-known work, Equal Under One Sky, described as concept which thereafter has been called Sullivan's Peak. Though the lens of his characters and their so very divided world, Sullivan demonstrated that the uncanny valley does in fact have its own peak on the other side, a point past which makes artificial existence any more human in its features serves only to make the user experience more uncomfortable, more difficult, and more fraught with moral pitfalls. Once you reach Sullivan's Peak, traveling any further only has diminished returns. The implications of this idea are far-reaching. We will very soon reach a point at which the designers of ADDs can only make their creations less lifelike or less likable, a hard stopping point for the technological progress. What then, we must ask? It's just trying to make people interesting. Surprised to find reading material like that around here. Were they passing it around as a gag, or are they actually afraid of Sullivan's Peak around here? Noble must be wary of it. If the peak does exist, they'll be coming up on it fast now that androids are warm. Noble's entire product line, maybe their entire industry, could go bottoms up if people start to think it's cruel. If Serra's any indication of where their androids are headed, I could see some people getting uncomfortable. Hell yeah. Feels like I've seen this before. That's right. There was one in David's lab. That's the nanograde elementary nanofacturer for short. Real high quality piece of machinery, each of them built in-house by Randock Mechanics. What does it do? Nano level flash fab. Basically a 3D printer for nano machines. You build nano machines in your factories for use in your androids? The raw materials are cheap, literally elementary, so no sense in getting them shipped in. It's mostly the medical models that make use of them. Inject a couple of thousand nanites to a patient's bloodstream, run diagnostics, and provide a solution. A 3D printer for nano machines, so what kind of ink does it use? Silicon, hydrogen, oxygen, carbon, building blocks. They feed into the nano printer and it assembles the machines particle by particle. Like a ribosome building structurally complex proteins out of chemically simple amino acid. Huh. Must be time consuming. You would think, but Randock cracked the code on parallel microfacturing. The inside crystalline sprawling like an ant's nest. Raw materials enter at one of the thousands of different entry points, combining and recombining at intersections. The finished product ends up at the center and drips out in a liquid solution. Distilled nectar swimming with millions of nanites in just 2 minutes. Nectar? It's sticky. It can be, depending on the desired output, but the door vacuum seals while it's cooking, so don't worry. It's completely spill-proof. Why you got so many, like, bandages on your hand, man? What's going on here? He's got so many bandages. What a relief. Not exactly a box of paper clips David could just have brought home from the office one day. He must have bought his own for some reason. All done. You ready to get the ADD handled? Thanks for humoring me. Can you have it step into the scanner, as he says? Understood. Right. Okay, right then. What are we looking at here? Whoa. There's a lot to unpack here. We theorized that it may have been Escher's pincushion. A pincushion, huh? That would explain some of what I'm reading here. She's annoyed. What language is that on screen? Tess. You know, Tesseract. All Noble products and, well, pretty much all products period are programmed in Tess. Easy to read and write. Stay compliant. Oh, let me see this Tess. Tesseract. Tesseract 4.6, better known as Tess, is the latest version of the Tesseract programming language, built on top of the Tenet system to utilize in industries around the globe to code the software that allows androids, robots, holograms, and more to react to their environment intelligently and with intention. At the start of the century, there was much greater variety in the number of programming languages. Yeah. Globalization, the standardization of industry procedures, and the gradual erasure of many spoken tongues contributed to the loss of countless programming languages during the mid-21st century. Today, Tess is virtually unchallenged as the global lingua franca programming language, The study and teaching of other, older programming languages is mostly done for recreation, hobby, or digital archaeology. That's fair. Now this model, what's it go by? Serra. This Serra model. It's got everything the 16th line has, that's for sure. Organic skin, hybrid muscles, advanced facial processing, and emoting. But there's a lot crammed in here that's still in development, like in the idea phases. Solar cell hair strands, decentralized redundant power, mental and physical overclocking with extended tolerances. Data storage is so large I can't... No. Wow. He had to measure it using... Hell of a poker face. She's feeling real good about herself. Wait, decryption and signal hijacking? That's hacking. Essentially. Does that mean it could hack its own tenants? Oh no, that's unthinkable. Literally, for an ADD. For an ADD to break its tenants would be like you stepping into traffic or dropping a baby. Even if you're physically capable of it, it's not something you would ever choose to do. Some people do walk into traffic. Psychotics, addicts, the mentally ill, does that mean that there are androids? Well, no. There aren't crazy androids, so yeah. I guess my analogy doesn't hold up. That's okay. So it can't hack itself, but it was given the ability to hack other systems? The industry line is such a capability could be an option in certain emergency scenarios. Yeah, the industry line is that such a capability could be an option in certain emergency situations, breaking through the firewalls and encryption of surrounding electronics to broadcast directly to police or military channels. Speaking of military, this musculoskeletal setup is drastic. I've never seen this on a consumer model. Can you lift a car or something, Serra? Most cars. It would depend on the center of gravity. Lady, this Serra could wrestle a public disturbance walker and come out on top. Those stomping behemoths they bring out for riot suppression. And in terms of computational ability, the estimate says that that can't be right. Look, Dawes, I was actually hoping you could tell me something about the software or the metadata. Who worked on it and when? Yeah, right. Yeah, okay. Well, that's unfortunate. The editing logs have been purged. That doesn't sound very above the board. Sorry, I can't tell you anything about who worked on Serra or when. Any chance you can restore those logs? Not here. Not with this machine. I need computers that were actually used for programming this model. Any ideas where those would be? Serra? I cannot answer that question with any accuracy. Had a feeling you might say that. ADDs, right? Sorry, I can tell you that the code is unique. There's hints of the A16 in there, a few of the same conclusions. It's just, Dr. Ashur, whoever took very different paths to get there. So Serra has even less in common with every other android on the inside? Sorry, I didn't expect to hit Sorry, I didn't expect to hit a dead end here. Not at all. You've been very helpful. Can we still get the registration done? Yeah, no problem. We've got the software and forms all set up here. Occasionally, we'll let new business partners bring one home fresh from the oven, you know? Oven? Gross. All right, a few basic questions then. Who's going to be the official owner of this unit? She is. As it says, unless the will disagrees, it's my responsibility. Right then. You fine with the designation, Serra? We can set it to anything you like. Well, actually... Never mind. Serra will do fine. Okay, this part's all standard. Civilian mode, address, contact info I can get from your crumbs. Do you want to reset to factory defaults? Could clear up a lot of quirks. Not right now. The last thing then is the grading. I'm reading 23 tenets here. Nothing too far out of the ordinary. 23? That's higher than I expected. Talking with it. She seemed more malleable than that. Don't blame yourself. Guessing tenant could count from outward appearances has become a crapshoot. Not like it used to be. It used to be they only had 3 tenants total, and every unit had to have them. Then came the first accidents, the first lawsuits, and then the hearings, and the legislature. And the demand for more tenants. A tenant making sure ADDs couldn't endanger the state. A tenant stating that ADDs wouldn't divulge private information without prior consent. There was a campaign calling for a tenant to weigh child and adult lives equally during a risk assessment. There was a campaign calling for a tenant to do the opposite. Companies wanted their asses covered. Customers wanted guarantees. There was never much incentive to deny a requested tenants, so the list just ballooned. Until the military entered the market in full force. You sound like you don't approve. I wouldn't go that far. They needed their ADDs to be able to pull the trigger when ordered to, without clearing 5,000 lines of bloated, hard-coded decision points to get there. I get that. But since the armies are the only ones using tech with bare minimum tenets, all the best, least cluttered, most elegant code is only used for war games. It's not very romantic. Yeah. Well, not like I was on the jury. Department of Advanced Defense Projects, V Zenith Dynamics. The Supreme Court sided with the military requests and set a new precedent that every other army around the world would race to meet. Changing tenets from a mandated list at the root of every ADD's source code to a choose-your-own checklist. It's funny. ADDs with the most tenets, they're so locked up if you can't even have a conversation with them. Oh, they're so locked up. You can't even have a conversation. Yeah, okay. The outside of the armed forces, the only ADDs with single-digit tenant counts are just vacuuming floors. The most impressive ones, like what you've got here, fall somewhere in the middle. Sorry, went on a tangent there. Only thing left is the evaluation. What gets evaluated? Total financial worth for insurance purposes. Yeah, the insurance companies made sure we had every accurate algorithm for this. No room for human error, they insisted, with no sense of irony. Wow. I mean, I knew it was custom, but what price could they have possibly? That's a lot of digits. You should know these formulae are pretty conservative with their estimates. Stingy, even. If Serra's really David's last and greatest work. They say some things are priceless, but when you force an insurance algorithm to pick a number, try not to get any scratches on it, I guess. Yeah, well. You spoke differently back there. With Dawes, you spoke like he did, it seemed. Like I copied his accent? You seemed to mirror his effect, his tone. It's called being friendly. What's your point? It was just an observation. You can choose to keep those to yourself, you know. No tenant required. Why were you so concerned about registering me in the first place, Adonai? For the same reason I wouldn't drive in a car. Sorry. For some reason I've been reading stuff a little weird today, but it should be okay. I think I'm just a bit tired. But the same reason I wouldn't drive around in a car without a license plate. Any cop, or even just a well-placed camera could have spotted your barcode and seen that it wasn't set up with any actual data. And then they would have arrested me, and then they would have thrown me in the slammer. No, they would have arrested me and put you in an evidence locker. An android can't get arrested? People get arrested, property gets seized, and then smashed. Great. You put us over the weight limit. I did no such. Organ Counselor, your presence has been requested on the upper floors. Who's asking? Vice President of Android Futures, Helen Jung. Shouldn't have assumed I still had the opening move. Tell her I'll be right up. I'll redirect your elevator now. Taking control of your elevator is very convenient, forceful, as if Noble is trying to directly steer your investigation. If Noble wanted to shut me down, they wouldn't bother to be subtle. I suppose they could simply refuse to cooperate, or just let the elevator drop. I mean, yeah. Yeah, that's about right. We're gonna meet Helen Jung. Noble Electronics Northeastern HQ. Executive Office. Jung. All right. Whoa, someone's looking like a boss. I like your hairstyle and that silhouette. Oh my god. Okay, everything's so orange. Right. Speaking first is a sign of weakness, is it? And here I thought I could avoid wading into a swamp of corporate pretend power dynamics. Well, she's the one who asked me to be here, so what do you want? Silence is only awkward if you care. I can ignore social cues all day long. I always liked this time of day. Oh, I like her design. She's cool. Not too muggy for you. No, I never liked a clear blue sky. It always seemed cold to me. You're in luck. The sky gets more colorful every year. As the air quality drops. Childish, isn't it? Marveling at the small sheen of rainbow dancing on the surface of a massive oil spill. Apologies for waxing poetic. It's been a very unusual 24 hours around here. Dr. Jung. Just Miss is fine. Miss Jung, I get the feeling you didn't bring me up here to talk about the weather. No, I brought you up here to express my condolences. I'm very sorry for your loss. Thank you, though I could say the same. I know you and David worked together for many years. Yes, we did, but as much as I'd like to just drop everything and process, the company wheels don't stop spinning for anything. All right. Or anyone. Was Dawes of any help? She sent him, trying to be helpful, or just trying to control the narrative? He was great. But that must mean you know why I'm here. I don't want to make assumptions. No need, I'll be explicit. I'm here as an officer of the court, which means I'm bound by law to document every rock I turn over, and every person I speak to. Yes, the lawyers made that all very clear. Lawyers? You have an android. It's not one of ours. You can tell that quickly. Got all the faces memorized. It's easy enough to remember the major archetypes we use, yes. If you're nuts about your work, maybe. It's a recent acquisition. Very recent, in fact. One of David's last requests, apparently. David asked you to take it? I've been told that you've been to David's estate already. The police gave me full access to the scene. And you know that he wasn't alone last night, yeah. There was a single witness who met with him and called emergency services when he fainted. I was that witness. Really? Obviously. There aren't that many people David would bother meeting with in person, let alone welcoming them into his home and offering them a drink. Let's see this person. Oh yeah, Sato. Let's see what her profile is. Love her design, even though it's kind of whack. March 3rd. She's a blood type. Oh, we don't know her weight. Medical examiner. She likes accessories, reality TV, palm reading. Good for her. Social media, dress codes, ebooks. Gotcha. She loves to make new playlists, throw out old clothes. That's what she hates to do. Most proud of, my weekly meal prep. You know what? Be proud. It's hard. All right, Dawes. Silly Dawes, man. Chief Supervisor, Android Manufacturing Quality Control. It's just a QA boy. Hammocks, calligraphy, pale ale. Calligraphy is nice. Hammocks is really random. I'm just like, all right, I guess you like hammocks. Dislikes first dates, conference calls, 5 o'clock shadow. Weird. Practiced handshake. Struggles with solving captchas. Why? Hair starting to gray. Damn, he's getting old. We're actually not getting any ages, so I have no idea how old he is. August 1st, though. And Young, December 9th. I see. 59 kg. VP of Android Futures. Likes red meat. Flower gardens. High thread counts. Working from home. Shopping online, waiting. Understandable. Languages. Fluent in 3. Enjoys attending baseball games. That's weird. All right. Not that there's anything wrong with baseball games. I just didn't pin her the type. Hidden talent, getting children to stop crying. Okay. It's really random. But hey, I'm glad you have so many random things you could do. It's the term flash fab. Artificial Microsoft use. Parallel nesting. Nanomachines have been there. And here's flash fab. Oh, this is the, this is like 3D printing the Nanomachines. Oh, tenets. That's the thing I was kind of wondering about. Programming framework underlying the development of modern automated dependent software. All contemporary support programming languages are built upon the tenet system, allowing users to designate a series of inviolable priorities. Inviolable? I don't know how to say this word properly. Inviolable? Inviolable? Man, I'm not used to a bunch of the vocabulary they use in this game. That's okay. For their code to pursue. Tenets were first adopted in the field of computer science. Trio three-part priorities that govern how to preserving human life, obeying human commands, and avoid damage to human properties. I see. So they're basically rules. They're basically what prevents the ADDs from going off the rails, I suppose. One tenet that could not be removed from any program was the safety, aka tenet 0, tenet 1. Said tenet dictated the following program could not produce outcomes that would result in harm of a living person. Yeah, it's the Turing shit. Yeah, it's the Turing law. Sorry if I'm not going through all of it. I think a lot of it is interesting, but not necessary for the game. I try to read what I think is relevant, and I guess some of these are, but not a lot. Or unless they are all super useful, and I'm going to have to look them up later. Slang terms for the nouveau riche, new money. Oh, yeah, it's the neobility. I remember that. What was the name of the people? Damn, forgot their names already. It was from the last episode. Sells the nobility or even as a second estate and administer global powers alongside the first governments. Yeah. What are those families? Evidence. Okay, we got evidence to look through at some point. And there's Sullivan's Peak. Okay. Let alone welcoming them into his home and offering them a drink. I also knew that Jung is his superior on paper, though not in fame. And I knew that the witness that had Executive Plan 3 insurance, so they had to be a higher up than David. Well then, do you lawyers know that do your lawyers know that we're having this conversation? Of course. They're pulling their hair out about it as we speak. Can't imagine why the police cleared you. And you are well within your rights to ask for some privacy, given the high-profile nature of all that's happened. So why call me up here? Why cut through all the red tape your lawyers painstakingly hid you behind? Eventually, you, or some clever lawyer like you, would get the record opened. Through legal means or otherwise. The company's enemies are legion, and they have a prying knife for every occasion. Still, that would have taken time. Time you could use to get ahead of what could be the biggest PR hurdle Noble's ever seen. Touché. And so perhaps the truth of the matter is that I simply didn't want to hide. David was my colleague for several years, and if I were in your shoes, I would have questions as well. You're doing this for my sake? No, my reasons are purely selfish. I'm only hoping that talking to someone whose job isn't to defend me from all consequences might prove therapeutic. If she wants to play confessional, that's fine by me. But is that really all that's going on here? Why don't you start from the beginning then? You went to his home last night? Yes, around 7:30 p.m. The building's penumbra captured all of that quite clearly. Fell ill around 8 p.m., so you spent half an hour together. Why the late call in person? We had an intense discussion yesterday afternoon. David never came in on Saturdays, and I didn't want to spend the weekend glaring at him through screens, so I visited, and he let me in, and we talked. About the good old days, if you can believe that. Back when we were both new to the company, eager to make a name for ourselves. How long ago was that? 7 or 8 years ago? Miss Jung, putting a number on it doesn't sound that long ago, but it feels... We spent a while like that, just talking. He was lively and sharp, and I never would have thought that a few minutes later, that he would be dead, that he would commit suicide in front of me. A firm reply. What happened? A quartet before 8, he said he wanted to toast. He got up, walked back into his workshop, and then he must have went down to his basement to get us a bottle. It's that 81 wine. whatever the hell that 81 wine was in the last episode or 2 episodes ago. It's a password. It's not a password. It was poison. I don't know what it is. I'm just making things up. I checked some messages in the meantime. Enjoyed the view. In other words, she stayed on camera. He came back with a bottle of whiskey and 2 plastic cups. We drank and talked. He got quieter, spoke less. I thought he was just getting drunk. I didn't get worried until he started to fall asleep. Are you okay, Serra? You tried to wake him. He wasn't responding. I tried to shake him awake, but he didn't seem... I left him and ran to the kitchen to use the security system. Didn't think to use your phone? No, I suppose I didn't. That's weird. But it worked out. Penumbra's emergency protocol summoned the VTOL straight to his helipad with the 1 button press. When I returned to the parlor, he was limp. I moved him to the floor as delicately as I could. He had a heartbeat, but I just did what I could until they arrived. You went with them to the hospital, I take it? Yes, they insisted. They checked my vitals and ran a tox screen, which came back clean. So did David's for all the good it did. Him. I wasn't paying close attention to what they were saying at that point, but I was sure they ran through every step of the CCE SOP. That's what they're paid to do. You seem certain that it was suicide. Yes, why? As I said, he got quieter as the time passed, and he spoke less. But the last thing he said to me, the last clear thing he said, was that he was happy ending it here. Said he was content, and he downed his glass after that. He drank every last drop. No, that doesn't sound right. Does it sound like David Assure to you? Curious, restless, perfectionist, David? No, I guess it doesn't. Yo, that totally does not sound like him. You know what? I'm going to leave it here and get to the questioning in the next one. But thanks for joining me. We're going to talk to our gal and see how it goes. I think today was a weird day for reading, but all good. I'm enjoying the adventure, and I'm excited to get into the poker aspect. This is a much longer episode than the first one. So, anyways, I'll kind of leave it here, and we'll talk soon. See ya.